Have you ever noticed when you're studying the Bible how suddenly you'll come across a verse that you learned as a child or you've heard in church, but you've never read it in its original context? Well, one of those popped up in our reading from 2 Corinthians today. God loves a cheerful giver. You've heard that before, right? Well, Paul was reminding the Corinthians of this while encouraging them to be generous in their giving. By reminding them to be generous, he was also reminding them of the best reason to behave that way. Because God himself is a generous giver. In fact, right after penning that famous verse, "For God loves a cheerful giver," Paul followed up with verse 8. "And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all you need, you will abound in every good work." God will bless you, and you can bless others. That was the whole point we read about the story of King Solomon from 2 Chronicles. Solomon was the most famous king who ever lived. When he asked God for wisdom, God ended up giving him not only wisdom, but wealth and honor, more than any king of Israel before or since. And by the time the Queen of Sheba arrived, it's obvious that his reputation had extended thousands of miles beyond the border of Israel. Yet Solomon's stunning reputation wasn't even half of the story. As the Queen of Sheba found out, when God bestows his blessings, he always gives more than we can expect or imagine. She admitted openly that the truth about Solomon's wisdom and riches and kingdom far exceeded the report she had heard. She learned that God is an outrageous giver. If he promises wealth, it would be more than can be imagined. If he promises wisdom, it would stun even the most brilliant thinkers. The queen was so overwhelmed with her visit to Solomon that in response she gave Solomon lavish gifts of gold, spices, precious gems, 9,000 pounds worth. Then, in another twist, that wasn't the end of the story. In exchange, we see a beautiful example of what Paul told the Corinthians. God will bless you so that you can bless others. For Solomon turned right around and did something that God would do. He gave the Queen of Sheba all she desired and more. Solomon had definitely learned how to give like God, giving more than was brought to him. But let's look at a more contemporary example. As people began to struggle with the downturn in the economy in 2009, Cross Timbers Community Church in Argyle, Texas, attempted to help. The pastor told the people, "When the offering plate comes by, if you need money, just take it from the plate." The church gave away $500,000 in just 2 months. They helped single moms, they helped widows, they helped local missions, families behind on their utility bills. The day they announced the takeaway from the plate, they received their largest offering ever. As God's grace toward us reproduces graciousness in us, it pleases him. Imagine the joy in God's heart when this congregation in Texas began to give generously and cheerfully. This is the kind of giving in which God delights. It's not about what we give or how much we give, and it's certainly not about whether we are rich or poor. God expects all his people, rich and poor alike, to be generous givers. That's because the blessing in giving isn't actually about what we give as much as it is our attitude. I'm reminded of an incident that happened to Mason. He was dutifully ringing the Salvation Army bell on a blustery Saturday morning, and at the same time watching for his relief, when a plainly dressed woman came up to him and commented about the cold. He mentioned that his half-hour shift was almost over, and she replied that she had gotten chilled too the day before, when she had worked all day ringing the bell for the amount the Salvation Army was able to pay her. As she spoke, she reached into her purse and dropped some coins in the bucket. Thinking of her willingness to give despite her circumstances always caused Mason to tear up as he told the story. Talk about the right attitude. What kind of person is a cheerful giver? Well, it takes both faith and love to be a cheerful giver. If we don't care for others, at best we might occasionally give reluctantly when it benefits us in some way. So cheerful and continued giving is a sign of love and of evidence that we care for others. Faith is also necessary. Without confidence that we will have enough in the future, it is unlikely we will give cheerfully. It doesn't matter where we find ourselves in life or what our circumstances are. He promises to bless us in all things. Being generous requires a lot of effort and practice. It means we give of ourselves and that we think of others before ourselves. It means giving, especially when expecting nothing in return. Generosity is born out of love. And generosity beautifully opens the heart to gratitude. The Greek hilaros means cheerful, joyous, but it also suggests a sense of readiness. It means to be ready to act at a moment's notice, to be prepared. A long time ago, a wise preacher said, "Never do something for someone if you're going to complain about it later." He went on, "Only serve, give, or do what you're willing to do happily, without regret, without complaint." Don't forget that giving includes not only material wealth, but our talents and our time. Think of the Good Samaritan. It's true that he gave the innkeeper money for the wounded man's expenses, but wasn't his most important act stopping to minister to the man and taking him someplace safe? Generosity can be shown in all kinds of little things. This means small acts of kindness that we can perform every day. Unexpected displays of love shown by sharing of our time or our talents in our everyday life. Now, here's some information that might surprise you. Among individual givers in the United States, while the wealthy do their part, the vast predominance of offerings come from average citizens of moderate income. These giving ratios reveal a consistent pattern, measured by how much they share out of what they have available. The most generous Americans are not generally those in high income, urban states like California or Massachusetts. Rather, they are people living in states that are more rural, conservative, religious, and moderate in income. And those are the most generous givers. The next piece of information that will not surprise you is that religious practice is the behavioral variable most consistently associated with generous giving. Charitable efforts correlate strongly with the frequency with which a person attends religious services. Isn't that the same assurance that Paul gave us? In working things out for our good, God is not limited by anything. He can bless us if we're facing terminal illness for ourselves or for loved ones, if we've been fired, if a spouse walks out on us, if, as a church, we are uncertain what God's plan is for our future. He can bless us anytime and anywhere, in the midst of anything. And finally, this may be the most surprising piece of information. The most charitable people in the United States are not those making 6 or even 7-figure salaries. It's lower income people. In the United States, research has shown that the wealthiest Americans donate 1.3% of their income, while the poorest donate 3.2%. When it comes to the rich and their giving, the big areas of donation are the arts, universities, sometimes healthcare organizations. That is not to say that they don't give to other causes, but with the poor, they tend to lean toward human services, direct service organizations that are focused on serving the poor. Wasn't it the widow in the New Testament who put her 2 mites in the offering and then was praised by Jesus as having put in more than all of the others? She gave everything she had, probably because she knew that God was a generous giver, and she trusted him that he would take care of the things she really needed. So, what's the message for us? It's worth remembering that no matter what we have, whether it's a little or a lot, it all came from God. He cheerfully gave it to us, and it delights his heart when we take every opportunity we have to give cheerfully to others. It doesn't matter whether it's our financial resources or our time or our talents. We never have to worry that we will give so much that we will be left with nothing. We can never outgive our God. He is able to abundantly bless us in all things, and in blessing us, enable us to bless others.